I'm back at Peekaboo on February the 19th. It's a mess, but I have these white styrofoam containers all stacked through here. These are all full of my finished castings. And so what I just did with my very dirty hands is I just went through and, loosened up the castings and pulled out some adult or big enough worms for me to grab easily. I didn't go after the little wisps. And I harvest my castings when they're really at a vermicompost where there's quite a few bits of cardboard left. In fact, let me just scoot ahead a little bit. And this middle tub of castings, I'll just move my green sand there. I think that's something like green sand. This bin here is not finished, but this is sort of the level that I harvested at. There's still cardboard visible. So I didn't pull worms out of this one. In fact, I gave it a few tablespoons of food and I misted it up. I misted all of them. But I pulled I pulled worms out of the ones that are ready to go into the garden. Oh, that lid is breaking, obviously. So I'm going to be putting these worms into the garden in about 2 to 3 weeks. I'm going to be putting the castings, I'm tired. I'm putting the castings in the garden in about 2 to 3 weeks. And yes, I know the worms are going into the garden, and yes, we are putting a worm tower to feed them. But I also need to build my herd as much as I can for these indoor bins. So what I've done is, again, I pulled out some worms from the castings. Now, I've been pulling out worms from the vermicompost and castings all winter long. I knew I had the benefit of time, that I didn't have to get them all. I didn't sift them heavily when I harvested the vermicompost. I just did a horizontal migration. So these worms are going into Peekaboo. They're just ones. Oh, they're relatives from the various systems that I've harvested. It doesn't look like a lot of worms, but my goodness, it actually is. I can tell you that my hand's gone in and out, in and out, in and out, at least several hundred times, picking up these worms in there. And I'm sorry for the shadow there. I'll put this tub upside down right over that opening in the cardboard so that any worms on that container will find their way in. So that's it for these castings. They are good to go into the garden now. That middle one that still has a little bit of finishing up to do, I'll probably leave it the longest for me having to use it. But the other tubs are just beautiful castings that, sorry, my plastic's not cooperating. They're beautiful castings ready for me to do my seed starting and other things. And that's just it. If you harvest when it's at the vermicompost stage, the microbes are still in the soil. There's going to be worms in the soil. There's going to be cocoons in the soil that will hatch over time. And if you've got the benefit of winter harvest, like I did late fall, winter, you don't need the castings right away, and they finish up beautifully. And so the adult worms are really easy to pick out. Or not even adults, they're, the juveniles even, very easy to pick out once the castings are finished. They really stand out. And if you give them a tablespoon or two of food every few weeks, it tends to cause them to congregate in that area. So anyway, that's Peekaboo. He's had 2 infusions of worms now in 2 days. And I really think this bin will start making tracks, finishing off that cardboard from the monitor that we bought, as well as the other bedding. And I actually think the castings will be good to go from this bin probably by late spring, probably by May. So March, April, May. I bet 3 more months Peekaboo will be ready to harvest, which that'll be exciting. All right, thanks everyone.